Imagine a 5-alarm fire engulfing a skyscraper, but the screams are missing. Firefighters walk towards the blaze with the placid gait of someone browsing a library. A mother notices her child has wandered into a busy street, and she observes the oncoming traffic with a detached academic curiosity. There is no jolt, no gasp, no sudden frantic sprint. This isn't a world of bravery, it's a world where the very instinct for survival has been surgically removed from our minds. And the reason for this slow-motion apocalypse is stranger and more intimate than you could ever imagine. It's the answer to the question, what if humans lost the ability to produce adrenaline? Hey, I'm Leo, and this is Everyday Ifs. Today, we're not just exploring a thought experiment. We're performing a kind of biological treason. We're going to unplug the panic button hardwired into our DNA and see what happens when the silence gets deafening. You might think a world without adrenaline would be a paradise of calm, a global Zen state. No more stress, no more anxiety, no more heart-pounding fear. And for the first few hours, you might be right. The constant low-level thrum of modern anxiety would just fade out. Rush hour traffic would feel less like a battle and more like a slow, synchronized ballet. That looming deadline at work? It would just be a task on a list, stripped of its emotional teeth. But we would quickly discover that we've traded our anxiety for a profound and dangerous lethargy. Adrenaline, or epinephrine if you want to be formal, is our body's biological superhero serum. When your brain perceives a threat, your adrenal glands dump this stuff into your bloodstream, and it's like flipping a switch from standby to maximum overdrive. Your heart rate skyrockets, pumping oxygen to your muscles with incredible force. Your pupils dilate, letting in more light for sharper vision. Your airways open up, allowing you to breathe faster and deeper. It shunts blood away from non-essential tasks like digestion and sends it straight to your limbs. It's a total system reboot designed for one purpose: immediate, powerful, decisive action. Without it, the world becomes a very different place. All those stories of mothers lifting cars off their children? Impossible. They become tragic tales of mothers calmly assessing a situation they are physically incapable of changing. An Olympic sprinter, at the peak of human conditioning, would explode from the blocks with all the urgency of someone getting up to make a cup of tea. The entire concept of an extreme sport would be downgraded to mildly inconvenient outdoor activity. Let's meet someone whose entire life is built on this chemical edge. We'll call her Ilara. She's a paramedic. Right now, in our world, when Ilara's pager screams at 3 a.m., her system floods with adrenaline. By the time she's in the ambulance, her senses are heightened. Her reaction time is razor sharp, and she's primed to make split-second life-or-death decisions. But in our new, adrenaline-free world, that 3 a.m. call is just an annoying noise. She gets to the scene of a multi-car pileup, and there's no urgency. The normal cacophony of shouting and panic is replaced by an eerie quiet. She moves through the wreckage with a slow, deliberate pace. She can't triage effectively because her brain isn't flagging the most critical injuries with that internal klaxon of danger, act now. She sees a trapped victim and knows intellectually that she needs to act fast. But the physical command isn't there. Her muscles feel heavy, her thoughts syrupy. She is a master of her craft, trapped in a body that refuses to acknowledge the emergency. So, we'd be slower, weaker, more placid, annoying, sure, dangerous, definitely. But that isn't the real catastrophe. This physical sluggishness is just the symptom of a much deeper, more insidious problem. Because adrenaline doesn't just talk to our muscles, it talks to our minds. And by silencing it, we would trigger a fatal flaw in our biology, a flaw that would unravel our entire civilization. So, if we can't feel fear, does that make us brave? Or does it make us something else entirely? Something less than human? The answer lies deep in the architecture of our brain, specifically in a tiny, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. This is our brain's threat detector, but it does more than just sound the alarm. It works with another region, the hippocampus, to create our most powerful and lasting memories. Think about the most vivid memories you have. Your first kiss, a major achievement, or more likely, a moment of intense fear, a car crash, a terrifying nightmare, a near miss on a slippery road. These are called flashbulb memories, burned into your psyche with incredible detail. The reason they're so strong is that at that exact moment, your amygdala was screaming, and your system was flooded with adrenaline and stress hormones. That chemical cocktail essentially shouts at your hippocampus, "This. Pay attention. Record every detail of this, because it's important for survival." Fear, you see, isn't just an unpleasant feeling. It's the ink with which our survival manual is written. Without adrenaline, that ink runs dry. The emotional highlighter is gone. We can still learn things, but the process becomes dangerously sterile. The lesson lacks its sting. Let's check back in with Alara, the paramedic. A few months have passed. She's studying for her recertification, going over procedures for catastrophic bleeding. In the old world, she'd remember these techniques because she'd associate them with the heart-pounding stress of real-life emergencies. The memory would have a powerful emotional tag. Now, reading the textbook is like reading a phone book. The words are there, but they don't stick. The life or death importance is just an intellectual concept, not a felt reality. She fails the exam. She can no longer be a paramedic, not because she isn't smart, but because her brain has lost the ability to prioritize and remember life-saving information. Now, zoom out from Alara to all 7 billion of us. This isn't just about failing tests. This is a civilization-wide learning disability. An engineer designs a bridge that collapses. In our world, the sheer horror of the event, the loss of life, the professional shame, it's a massive, adrenaline-fueled lesson for the entire industry. New regulations are written, new techniques are developed. We learn. In the adrenaline-free world, the bridge collapses. People die. The engineer looks at the data, calmly notes the structural failure, and thinks, a miscalculation. There is no gut-wrenching, soul-crushing weight of failure to drive him to ensure it never happens again. So, a few years later, someone else makes the same mistake. And again, and again. We would become a species trapped in a loop, endlessly repeating our most catastrophic failures because we've lost the biological mechanism to be truly terrified of them. Forest fires would rage because we'd forget the terror of being trapped by flames. Pandemics would sweep the globe because the memory of the last one wouldn't carry the emotional weight needed to enforce quarantines. Progress itself would grind to a halt and then begin to slide backward. No one would take risks, not because they're scared, but because the potential reward offers no thrilling biochemical rush. Innovation, exploration, discovery, all of it is fueled in part by the same system that governs our fear. This is the quiet apocalypse we hinted at. Not an apocalypse of fire, famine, and war, but one of apathy, repetition, and decay. We wouldn't fight. We wouldn't scream. We would simply forget how to survive. Let's visit Alara one last time. She's at home, cooking. The phone rings, and she gets distracted. A pot of oil on the stove begins to smoke, then ignites. Flames lick up the wall. In our world, this is a moment of pure terror. A surge of adrenaline would give her tunnel vision, superhuman speed, and a crystal-clear objective: put out the fire or get out. In her world, she smells the smoke. She turns and sees the fire. Her heart rate remains a placid 70 beats per minute. She calmly walks to the cupboard, retrieves the fire extinguisher, and puts out the flames. The danger is averted. But here's the terrifying part. The next day, she won't have a vivid, heart-pounding memory of the moment her kitchen almost burned down. It will be a dull, flat recollection, like remembering she bought milk yesterday. The lesson, don't leave oil on the stove, won't be burned into her soul. And because of that, she might do it again and again, until one day she's a little too slow, a little too distracted, and the fire is a little too big. That is the fate of humanity in a world without adrenaline. We wouldn't go out with a bang. We would be consumed by the fires we forgot to fear, drown in the floods we weren't panicked enough to flee, and fade away in the quiet, placid stillness of a lesson never learned. Our greatest evolutionary tool isn't our intelligence or our opposable thumbs. It's the jolt of terror that tells us we're alive, and the desperate, beautiful, heart-pounding struggle to stay that way.